starts recording.
You're writing.
And then as I write, and so this is Whiskey's mark.
What?
Anyway, yeah, there'll be a video when we're done of me writing and us talking. And I don't know if this thing needs to be on here or not, but it sure looks cool.
Yeah, whenever we film weddings, people always get confused because we use DSLR cameras, just like a photographer does.
Right.
So they're always looking at us just like smiling. We're like, no, this is a video camera. If you see the like fuzzy cat on the end of it, that means it's a video camera.
Right.
They're like, okay.
So yeah, I wanted to chat with you. Mostly, I got super excited. I went to the Nation of Makers conference with Darby.
I want that book.
Nice.
I'm like,
Darby has a copy with your name on it.
Does she?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's in here now, so I don't know. She might she might have it in her bag.
Yeah, I want it.
We got super jazzed while we were there.
Yeah.
Nation of Makers has this notion of a like organ ambassador or like state ambassadors, and our ambassador used to be the manager at the Science Factory, and he moved away.
Oh.
And so like four of us went to
Cool.
the Nation of Makers thing, and we just kind of didn't. We met some folks from Portland. Nobody seemed super interested in being the ambassador, so like Darby and I are kind of taking it on as co-ambassadors.
Cool.
If that's even a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started during the Obama administration. They were really getting into. They're embracing the whole maker thing.
Yeah.
And we've got maker spaces in town here. There's a huge amount of cooperation between the three.
So there's three. Does Science Factory have one? Where's the third one?
Well, the Science Factory kind of is it's a STEM education,
right.
exploratorium kind of more kid-focused thing. And they're not the Science Factory anymore. They're the Eugene Science Center. Eugene Science Center. And then there's the Eugene Makerspace, which is the one that's been around for, I don't know, since like 2007 or something.
That's out West 11.
That is out West 11.
And the library has one.
The library has one. The library also has like a STEM bus.
Right. I haven't seen it before. I don't think I've heard about it.
Yeah, and so it's maker season now, and so planning is happening for the Eugene Mini Maker Fair, which is going to be in September.
Okay. Cool.
And the idea is that this will be the last year where the Eugene Mini Maker Fair is hosted on specifically for the I keep wanting to call it the Science Factory.
Yeah.
Eugene Science Center.
Okay.
And we want to make it more of a Eugene thing.
Okay.
And so we want to take it out of the museum. They've got their arms wrapped around it right now.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't mind having it opened up. And so how this ties in with the Nation of Makers thing is there's a Nation of Makers conference.
Right. And this is what you and Darby are interested in bringing, or Darcy are interested in bringing here, right?
Yeah, we want to bring it to Eugene in like 2020.
Okay.
We're not quite there yet. Like, I don't think that we're quite have our ducks in a row for being a host city.
Yeah.
But I think we're super close. And so if we do a good job with this Maker Fair, making it bigger, more inclusive, and then if we can do the 2019 fair and like maybe bring it downtown, work with Lane STEM, work with these other maker organizations. We're talking about doing there was an effort a couple of years ago to do a Eugene Made.
Yes.
And it kind of floundered. You know how things kind of like you start and you got 5 people, and then you kind of do a thing, and then people move away, and then the last 2 people that are on the project say, you know what, this feels like work all of a sudden.
Yeah, too hard to just do it by ourselves. Yeah.
But there is Portland Made has got a great website, and we've got a lot of support from the folks in Portland to do like a Eugene Made kind of membership-based kind of thing.
Okay.
And then the Maker City book basically has like a checklist of things you can do to engage with the city, engage with local, engage with industry.
Yeah. So is it so the Maker City book, does it talk about innovation
Yeah.
districts in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, yeah, tell me what you think is going on with, like, what's possible for, like, an innovation district.
Yeah, so there is, it's sort of like a bunch of stuff and then it's like a lull, and a bunch of stuff and then it's a lull. So we're kind of in this period. So basically, you were at that last meeting at Rain, right?
Yeah.
With like, I don't know, there's like 25 or 30 of us there.
Yeah.
So after that meeting, I basically was just like, hey, I totally respect and agree with this idea that, in Bob's survey, they asked about like the governance structure, and people were like, we want it to be like this collaborative sort of leadership governance thing. And I was like, I totally agree with that. However, if there needs to be a person or a thing or an entity that sort of pushes it.
That's me.
Nice.
And then the regular.
Oh.
Did you get a sandwich too? Do we have twin sandwiches?
No, I didn't get one.
Oh, I was told they were from the same table. I'll figure that out. Sorry about that. Do you want?
There's probably somebody in there that ordered one.
Probably.
I mean,
if they didn't, I'll bring it back to you.
Yeah,
Okay,
and if there's two, we'll take two, whatever.
That's hilarious. Anyway, so after that, I basically said, Bob, let me know what I can do to help, like, make sure this keeps happening, because someone's got to, like, make sure it keeps happening.
And so where did that study come from?
So
was that just
the study?
The Bob's work?
Okay, so basically, Bob came and sat down with me last November, I think it was, and he was like, hey, I've talked to a handful of people about this innovation district concept. Had you met Bob before that? Bob Parker?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And a bunch of people told me to come talk to you about it because apparently you'd done a bunch of research. So 2-3 years ago, when Denny originally sent me the article about the Brookings Institution Innovation District stuff, I started digging into it, and Dave and I were talking a lot about we need to jump on this. Like, this is something awesome, and we should definitely make this happen. Obviously, so then that's whenever I reached out to Scott Andes at the Brookings Institute and brought him in partnership with Rain Eugene for the Rain graduation event where he spoke.
I saw that.
Yeah. And so then we had a conversation with Scott when he was here, and we talked a lot about, some of these other communities, what are the ingredients, yada, yada. And then Scott made a comment to Dave and I. He was like, most communities who've successfully done this innovation district thing and actually reach the economic benefits from it, they have some sort of big play. And they have something in their community that is big enough and unique enough that it actually puts them on the map somehow.
Like a physical structure, or
something for physical or infrastructure type stuff. So for Chattanooga, the thing that put them on the map initially is that they were one of the first cities that had a massive investment in high-speed fiber infrastructure, right? They had a government-backed, I don't know, $11 million, I don't even know what it is, something ginormous. Yeah. But they were on the ground first, getting that put all over the place. And that was the thing that sort of put them on the map and catalyzed their innovation district conversation.
Yeah. And we've got fiber too.
Right, exactly. And in Cincinnati, in Ohio, I don't remember if it's Cleveland or Cincinnati, their innovation district is really centered around the healthcare industry, and they have several big hospitals and university medical schools that sort of were the core of their innovation district.
Yeah.
So that conversation happened, and then literally not even a month or two later, the U of O announces this night campus.
Right.
And so Dave and I were like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's our big play. That is the thing that can put us on the map for other people who don't know Eugene. And it can help us sort of pull people together to say okay, let's make this happen. We have this massive asset.
And is the night campus, are they calling it the innovation something?
Yeah, it's the night campus for accelerating scientific impact, I think is what the
just rolls right off the
tongue.
Right?
And so that's why a lot of people, I think, have sort of called it the Night Innovation Campus. But the whole concept with the Night Campus is that this is sort of changing the face of university kind of research, because most universities who are focusing on research are focusing on the theoretical, they study and they research for the sake of research, right? And for the sake of, putting out these studies. But this whole campus and this whole concept is we want you to do things for the sake of invention and like actually solving real world problems.
Right.
And we want you to come up with these ideas and then go out into the world and actually solve these problems. And so like really applying the science and the research that they're finding and then going out and doing something with it. So that's why it's different. It's just not the normal kind of university research model. But anyway, so that happened, and then obviously when Dave got sick, things in the chamber just sort of flipped upside down, and I just plain didn't have the capacity to keep pushing on that.
Sure.
So when Bob came to me in November, he was like, hey, he has this grad student class that does these research projects every year. He's like, they're really interested in kind of looking at this innovation district thing. Mm-hmm. What do you think? I'm like, yes, go for it. Like, if you have the manpower and the brains to like dig into this and actually do some like asset research, go for it. So I gave him all the stuff that I had like just piled up over the last couple years, and so then his students did this whole. Basically, they picked a line, drew a district area just based on what the
Brookings conversation.
What the Brookings study sort of said. Here's some of the things you might want to include. And then they started to do inventory of it, and then basically they did a bunch of surveys, went out and talked to a lot of people, and one of the survey questions was about this idea of like, okay, but how should it be governed? Who makes sure that there's like maintenance of this innovation district concept? And that was when everybody kind of replied, at this point, we kind of want it to be like a collaborative governance.
Yeah.
So that all happened. I felt like it was pretty critical that if we were going to move something like this forward, the beauty of it is it's not like city council has to be like, yes, we approve an innovation district. Like, we can do it.
Yeah. And who would be we?
Just like the community. Like, the community can make this thing happen. But I feel like we have to make sure is real is that, like, the city supports the initiative. I think it's critical that the university is on board from the very beginning and that they're actually, like, bought into the concept and not just like within the district and like doing their own thing, kind of like it feels like all the time.
Yeah.
And then of course all the community partners. So we had a very brief meeting with university leadership, City of Eugene. I invited Lane County, but they weren't able to attend. And basically I just said, okay, what is your all's idea of what an innovation district is? Like, let's put that on the table, because I think that there's a lot of, like, confusion, and it's sort of like this weird.
Well, it is weird because it's
thing.
got the name district in it.
Yes.
And so it feels like you're immediately putting up a bounding box.
Exactly. And so, which, John Reese, I feel like he's very adamant about, like, that piece of it. And so I've been like, think of it as like innovation district, lowercase with quotes around it. Like, that is just like what the actual thing is called. That is not what our thing is called. It's like a tissue instead of a Kleenex. Like,
well, it's kind of like when you talk about downtown, and and sometimes if you're talking to somebody who's like from 5th Street, they're like, they don't feel like they're part of downtown. Or I was just talking to a friend of mine who's got an office on 13th, and I was like, so you're downtown? And he's like, well, not really. It's midtown.
Midtown.
And so it's weird when when just the power of language.
Yeah.
And
totally.
so I think Innovation District's awesome because you can Google it and you can find the Brookings Institute thing, and it's like that's the notion.
Yes.
And like, but at the same time,
we can name it what we want it to be.
Yeah, and it can just be like you say, here's the list of assets.
Yes.
We've got the university, we've got the whatever, we've got the, like, I know that what I would put in that asset list.
Yeah.
And they're not all in the same, they're not all a stone's throw from each other.
Right, exactly.
And that's okay to me. I don't care.
I don't care.
Right.
Yeah, so that initial sort of meeting, with John, with university folks, I just wanted to be like, look, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about what this is, and then what are some of the, like, if you had a magic wand and you could, like, list out what would come of this, what would that be? And what are the values that you think we need to make sure that we're upholding if we are creating some sort of district or innovation concept or whatever? And so we had that initial conversation. I felt like everybody was pretty much on the same page. Like, they use different language to describe things, but that's okay. So I felt like that was sort of the green light that we needed to say, like, okay, we're moving on this then. we don't need to come back around in 6 months and have you say like, well, I don't know if we're ready for this, because like you just committed that you guys are okay with it.
Well, and I did like the language they were using in the meeting. There was a lot of heads nodding around the idea of let's do a project, and let's actually do it.
And let's do it.
And there was some good language that was like, let's have a strategic doing session instead of a strategic planning session. Yes. Planning session, because totally that's preaching to. That's really hitting me because I'm all about projects and I'm less about organizations.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really want to form another organization.
I don't want to start a new thing.
Right.
So after that meeting, I basically sort of in that vein, I kind of sat down. I was like, okay, if I was a project manager for this project, like I just need to map out what are the activities that need to happen in order to get from point A to point B. Like looking at this as like a discrete like project, something in time that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just mapped out, and I'm working on like a Gantt chart that kind of overlaps all the different activities that I think that we should do to like actually get this thing rolling.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, Bob, he sent over to me the like draft of their research report that they did. So it's like 68 pages, very long. I have not finished the whole thing yet.
The big report.
The big report.
And I'd love to open that data up too.
So this is basically what Bob and I talked about was, he's like, okay, I'm going to send this over to you, read through it, figure out if there's any like glaring, like, he's like, I'm not going back to redo the research, but if there's anything in here that's missing or whatever, take a look. And then he went on vacation. So when I said, when I get back from vacation, we're going to have like the final report, and we want to publish it. Yeah. So my thought was, between basically that first conversation, or between the conversation that we had a couple weeks ago and before Bob gets back, I wanted to have these one-on-ones with folks like you, who I feel like are kind of on this list of stakeholders that are like closer to the inner circle, as far as like have some sort of either project or initiative or something that you're doing that kind of could be listed on this asset, and then have these like one-on-one stakeholder conversations to make sure that like we're like, you're in the loop, we're kind of on the same page. And then when Bob gets back, hopefully the idea is that we would publish this kind of like report from the university, and that would kind of be like the public catalyst for, hey, let's bring people together and have this strategic doing workshop.
Right.
So, okay, this research is out there, everybody can read it. It's, you know, if the RG picks it up, great. Like, there's this concept. The university is kind of launching this idea into space.
Yeah.
And they're a neutral third party, if you can call them that. And so then it's sort of the reason for us to say, like, okay, great, let's bring folks together. Hey there, glad we didn't wear the same dress on the same day. Yeah. Let's bring people together and do the strategic doing workshop, where we identify what are these like individual projects that people want to latch onto, and then we can bless them within the university or in the innovation district and say, go and prosper and do your thing.
Right.
So we're hoping that, so Bob gets back in a few weeks from vacation. We're thinking in September we can probably pull together the strategic doing workshop.
Yeah.
So there's like a couple, in my opinion, layers of activities that have to go on. There's getting like individual or groups of stakeholders kind of like bought into the concept. Like I said, I haven't finished the draft of that research report yet, but what I want to do is I want to have conversations with folks and really get their input on like, okay, what are the core values that we want to make sure are upheld, and what are the specific initiatives that you think make sense to fit within this, so we can put together sort of like a guiding principles document that, so I don't know if you've looked at the Portland IQ. So Portland has kind of their innovation district
innovation
area.
Quarter.
Yes, quadrant. Yeah.
So
they did a really good job of sort of outlining, 4 buckets of kind of core values that they want to make sure is like ingrained in all the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
I really like that concept. I mean, it's not unique. Other innovation districts have sort of done that same thing. So they have like diversity and inclusion, sustainability. I don't remember the other 2.
Yeah, and so, I'll be making a big push, and other people as well, on, let's make Eugene a maker city.
Yes, yeah.
And, let's include the maker spaces and STEM education and art and all this, like all these mashup things, because to me that's an easy model to follow. Other people have done this. There's a whole thing that's like your mayor can take the Maker City Challenge.
Cool.
That's and our previous mayor did it, and we want to loop around with our current one and say, do you know that this is a thing? And basically all the challenge is saying is that, we'll recognize the maker stuff as being a thing that's happening, and we'll include it in the stuff. And then there's another challenge that you can do. You can go to the schools, and you can say, take the whatever school principal challenge or whatever it is, and then basically all you say is, it's like 2 lines. One of them is, I'll support maker activities in the school, and if the kids make something, we'll showcase it.
Cool.
We'll make a big deal out of it. And so these are just like these very low commitment things, but it gets people more engaged with the whole thing. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll get you a copy of that book, because it's really a how-to book.
Yeah, that's what I want, and I imagine that it'll sort of like mesh really well with this like innovation district conversation. So there's like the identifying sort of the projects. In my opinion, this like concept of bringing the Maker Fair or the Maker Convention.
The Nation of Makers Conference.
Makers Conference here. That's like a perfect like project to be like supported within this like innovation district initiative, right? I feel like that's like tangible, and there's people who are jazzed about making it happen. And it's something that like within this district we can promote. Like, okay, great, we have a university, and we have these like new retail and commercial developments, and we have 3 co-working facilities within the innovation district, and we have X number of nonprofits or whatever it is we decide on as our asset list, and we have this like Maker Fair that we host here where blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. So wanting to sort of get people's feedback about like kind of the values and the initiatives that they would like to see happen in this, so we can put together kind of a guiding principles document, but that's like that people contributed to it. It's not just like me sitting there writing it.
Right.
And then once we kind of have that, there's like, I think, overlapping projects that can happen. So we can do the strategic doing workshop and identify like, okay, what are 3 to 5 kind of initiatives that we want to launch within this innovation district. But then on top of it is this conversation about branding and communication.
Yeah.
And so really kind of trying to decide, okay, do we want to hire someone to like really come in and put together like a branding communication platform for this district, so that way everybody can share it and we can use it. We can be cohesive in the way we talk about what this is. Mm-hmm. We can be cohesive in how we like brand things and put them out into the universe. And that's where my opinion is all of these things are already happening. It's not like we're starting from scratch, but what I don't think we're my personal opinion, what I don't think we're very good at as a community is having a shared communication platform for how cool we are and what we're doing in a way that sort of transcends just our community, right? Like, how are we sharing this with the rest of the world? So if we are trying to recruit more tech companies here, there's something in the universe that is like drawing them to Eugene, and it's like really well put together, and it's a communication platform that's kind of been studied to understand like, okay, this is how we should talk if we're trying to recruit companies. This is what our companies who are here really want to see and feel.
Well, and here's a place that they can go and they can see the asset list and like what's going on,
what's
and like how
here.
can I communicate this back to the employees or the people, because if they're looking around at other cities this size, we need to make it really easy for them to see the benefits and to see like there's like collective impact is going on, and that people are like a bunch of different orgs are working together in a spirit that would be welcoming somebody new coming in, that they're not coming in cold, they don't have to like make a thing. It's like there's a big hug going on in Eugene, here's the story there. And
it's easy for them to find and navigate, and it's not like all over the place where they have to like dig in 500 different like, oh, the chamber website and the city website and like, oh, what's this greater Eugene thing and blah.
Yeah, and that, that is, and I don't know that we're unique in that regard, but basically it's up to everybody to like have their own website and tell their own story and do the thing. And it's, that was one of the reasons to like start the Eugene Tech thing, was just like, if you've got something going on, we'll provide a basic platform of getting the word out.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I would love to see the innovation district like take that concept to like a citywide level.
Yes.
Not just a tech thing, but it's like here's all the cool reasons to be wanting to be in Eugene.
Yes.
And of course, my focus would personally be on like, let's highlight the maker spaces.
Yeah.
Let's show the STEM education stuff. Let's let's
I
do that. Because those are the things that appeal to me for whatever reason. But there can be a lot more going on there.
And I think that it's super important, and well, so this is kind of a I don't want to misrepresent it, but so when John Reese and I were talking about this, he definitely has an opinion about kind of how we make this thing inclusive that I agree with. And that is, like, when we're talking about Innovation District, a lot of people immediately think technology, right? Like, they think of, like, oh, this is like a tech community thing. And I so badly want to make sure that that's not what this is, right? And it's why I feel like it's so important to have TAO at the table, but also to have, Rain Eugene, and to have the social service in, like, industries represented by maybe, like, United Way, or to have all, like, a bunch of different types of people, because what I think would be the most beneficial is if we're talking about how our community is innovative in all of these different walks, right? Like, here are the innovative programs that we're deploying in the social service realm that are helping to solve, these big community problems. And, like, here's the innovative, programs that we're deploying in education that are, like, getting our kids, like, from point A to point B in a different way. And it's really helping. Here's the innovative business practices that our banking industry is, like, leading the way in across the country. That is not. It's not just like innovation equals tech. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And and there's a lot of mashups of like. There's a lot of underemployed people that want to be doing art.
Yeah.
There's a lot of underemployed.
Art. There's
a lot of underemployed people are doing whatever. If we can foster, and a little goes a long way when you're talking about getting the artists paid and getting whatever. If there's a way to really, some cities you go to and you just see their art and you get a vibe for what's going on there right away. And I'm not sure that we're telling that story right now.
Yeah, totally.
And it's that the cultural angle of that stuff. And tech can be in there, but tech is boring. Like unless you're a nerd, like like no one wants to talk about the blockchain or the data science or the whatever. It's like that is just super nerdy and not interesting. But like the First Friday Art Walk stuff, it's like if that was going on like all the time, if that was just kind of like baked into the experience, and it wasn't just once a month we do a thing or whatever. Personally, I'd like to see Eugene just be like this playground of highlighting all the cool stuff that's going on. And if there's a way to surface that up,
totally.
And I don't know if the innovation district is the right tool for that, but I kind of think it is a little bit.
I think it is too. I think that it's, and the other thing about it is that it feels like there's enough. It's vague enough that we can make it what we want, but it's like it's still sort of proven in other communities, so it's not like we're just creating something out of nowhere. Does that make sense?
And art is innovation, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So when you see some of these things, Harmonic Labs puts together cool things, and there's like 20 people on that project, that are making it happen, and they've all got different disciplines, and they're coming together and they're doing stuff. When we were at the Nation of Makers thing in Santa Fe, went to go visit a thing called Meow Wolf. Absolutely mind-blowing. Artists started as an artist collective thing, now they employ 300 people nationwide, full-time, building interactive art installations, and they've got everything from people running networking cables all the way up to performance art to, you know, large-scale art structures and like all this stuff. And it really made, you know, going to see that. I came away, I came back from Santa Fe going, they've really got something cool going on there.
Yeah.
You know,
awesome.
and
That's
so, and so I come back home and I'm like, what can we do? You know, because we've got the level of talent, we've got some different stuff going on. How do we surface all that? They're not going to be running, you know, our artists might not be running around making web pages and like talking to traveling county about how to showcase things or whatever. So if there was some sort of effort to go find all those cool projects,
bring them into the
you know, it's like, you know, I learned a big lesson with King Pong is like people are really into fun, cool things. Like I got more press out of the King Pong project than I ever got out of any other, you know, sort of like techie, you know, kind of thing or whatever. It's like, Anyway, I'm kind of off in the weeds on that.
No, that's great.
But
so I totally agree, and I think that that's all. I think that has to be included, right? Like I think that the bringing the arts community in from the ground floor, like, is absolutely critical. So I think that there's like this, like I said, the strategic doing thing where we can identify some of these like concrete projects that folks can just latch onto right away, and we can say like, okay, let's pick 2 or 3 things that we're going to make happen in the next year or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole branding communication platform on top, like it's like happening along the same time.
Yeah.
And then I imagine at some point, you know, we can have some sort of like launch event where, you know, we have the pomp and circumstance and the university president and the mayor and everybody comes and we like, yay, we have an innovation district, whatever it is. But then there's the like, okay, let's keep up, like, there's the care and feeding of the district after that, where I feel like I'm hoping through this process, there's sort of like, in an organic way, it becomes more obvious how we make sure to like, that we're going to get the most out of our innovation district going forward, right? Because there's like the project of creating it, and the activities that have to kind of happen in the beginning. The activities have to happen in the beginning, but then once it's sort of like established, we want to make sure that there's still like that things are happening and that we're keeping track of the successes that we have, and that someone is actually using the communication platform for good.
You know what I'd love to see is something along the same lines of what the cultural services did. Is they went and got a grant or they had some money, and then instead of rolling their own programs for the summer, they cut it up into a dozen things, and they put it out and said, hey, we've got this opportunity, put your, you know, if you want to do something. And I think the innovation district could do something like that too.
That's perfect.
Go get a big chunk of change under the auspice of, you know, innovation district, and then take that and cut it up and say like, you know, submit your project.
Yep, apply for this grant program and we'll help try to. That's exactly how I imagine something like this going down.
Yeah, and that's how you get the artists paid, and that's how you get cool stuff going on. Because it's really hard for somebody small to go take the time to go after a grant, especially those tiny grants. At the end of the day, you spend more time. It'd be probably easier just to ask somebody, you know, or put it on your own dime.
Yeah, so that's where in a lot of communities there evolves some sort of governance structure, so there's an entity that can do those types of things, like go after the grants or whatever. And I don't think we have to have that figured out in order to like move down the road. So I feel like that's what I'm saying is I hope that there's like an organic sort of evolution of what that looks like, and then it just becomes more obvious whether it's, you know, a collaboration of a bunch of organizations. Heaven forbid we don't have to start a new organization to run it, or if it's something where the chamber sort of like plays that role so we can help be the grant application and then help
shivvy
out the money. Whatever it is, there's something that will come of it that we can make that work.
Hey, how's it going? Hi, good
Any
to
chance
see
you have a maker book in your back pocket?
I do. I can drop one off.
I would love it. I would love it. I'm really excited to read it.
And just so you know, we're recording stuff, so you... No, it's totally fine. I want you to be aware that you know.
But yes, I'll bring it by.
Good.
So you can have that.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I was going to order it the other day, but I was like, I wonder if they have copies. If you don't, I can order one.
No, I bought some extra, and I bought one for you.
Yeah, when I'm rich, I order like 6 of them, and then I hand them out to people. But it fits with all the stuff. Cool. It just fits with the Innovation District. It fits with everything that we're working on in terms of community building, downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's nice to have a playbook.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not making it up as you go along.
And it's a validation of a process that has worked in multiple places, and it gives you different places to start. All right.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye. Yeah, so it's not like you have to do there's no what everyone does.
Yeah.
It's where are you and what do you need to do to start, and then here's some stuff.
Yeah.
And I like the statistics, and I liked the stories that go with different locations. So I thought it was
cool.
Yeah. So
I'd love a copy.
Yeah.
Thank
I'll
you.
give that to you.
And I'll send you a copy of this too. We've been chatting for half an hour or so about a bunch of stuff, so we'll share it.
And I had a good conversation with Dorothy, who is the executive director for Nation of Makers.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, she gave me a whole hour. So, hey.
That's awesome.
I know.
Good.
That was a good one.
Good.
All right.
Thanks for being awesome. All right, cool. Well, we're kind of bumping up on 10 here, but thank you so much for hanging out, taking the time. It feels like there's a lot of people that are moving in the same direction.
Yes.
And so this is good. It feels like a new kind of spirit of collaboration.
I think so too. And it feels like one that we're not pushing a boulder up a hill right now, and it feels nice to kind of come into something that it's like, okay, like let's do this together, and not, we've gone through phases of trying to work through different organizational structures, or like doing the recruitment thing or not doing it, new orgs starting up, and
here's one of the challenges that I've got right now is like I want to do these projects, but I don't want to start a new LLC or whatever around all these projects. So we're like considering taking Eugene Tech, which is currently a project under the TAO Foundation, and like turning it into its own 501c3. But I have been super resistant to that because I don't want to have another thing to manage, right? And so like if I know that the Innovation District is coming online,
it's something to like collect all of those efforts.
And that's the organization that could like have the bank account and like run the thing and whatever. I would rather put my energy into the Innovation District org, whatever that is, and just not do, take the projects that I've already got going on that are currently attached to Eugene Tech, which is then attached to TAO Foundation. So we're kind of cheating a little bit there with like kind of tagging things on where they don't really belong. If I knew that the Innovation District thing was coming, I would not form the Eugene Tech 501c3, and I would probably just put the energy more into the Innovation District.
I think that's my kind of hope is that there can be some like mergers and acquisitions within the like little nonprofit like project world. Sort of all come under one umbrella, so we can obviously do collective impact, but then also like collective financing and collective management.
And that's the thing is I'm more interested in doing the projects. I am not interested in doing all the W-9s and and cutting checks for stipends and like all that in administratium. And so if the Innovation District could have a budget to pay somebody to do all the overhead stuff, I'd rather just do projects.
Exactly. Well,
so
that's sort of, I hope that it gets to the point where we can make that happen. I'm on the same page with you on that. I think that it makes more sense, and we're going to get more bang for our buck if we're collecting all of that administrative type stuff into one place, and then just letting people go do the work.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, right on. I had a really good time talking to you.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Mark.